You're inside the morning grind with Promise on Hot 105.7. Appreciate you tapping in with me this morning. I got a very special guest. This dude is no stranger to the culture, founder of the Source Magazine, founder of the Source Awards, and has a brand new podcast network called Breakbeat. Special guest this morning, Dave Mays. Dave, what's going on?
What's happening, Promise, man? Good morning. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you again. How you been?
Yeah. Good to see you as well. I've been good, man. I'm excited, about this launch of Breakbeat, something I've been thinking about for a while now, and just putting it all together. And I got some incredible partners and backers to what I'm doing, and I just think there's a huge opportunity to create a platform for the hip hop community that represents their perspectives, their points of view across a comprehensive range of subject matters. It's hip hop, obviously, it's not just about the music or the fashion or some of the other things we see all the time. It's a perspective on the world. So the way we look at, social justice and politics, the way we look at sports, the way we look at, news, anything is different if you're from the hip hop culture. If that's been an influence in your life, you tend to see things differently from people that haven't been influenced by hip hop. And in some ways similar to what the Source represented for the community and the culture back in its heyday in the 90s. That was kind of the role that we played. So looking to kind of bring that back in the 2021.
This week is the first week on the launch. So salute to you for that. And
thanks.
No problem. You're welcome. And what was your thought process? Once you decided that you wanted to do this, that you needed to have talent, you needed to have voices for this platform. How did you go about deciding who you would have to help launch this new network for you?
Well, I had been, keeping my eye on certain people over the past few years. Some of the talent we found on social media. Two of, what I would call the unsigned hype, for those of y'all that know the legacy of that column in the Source magazine, but two of what I would call the unsigned hype of Breakbeat. One is Don't Call Me White Girl. She's amazing. If you guys haven't seen or heard about her, you probably have. You may not know it's her. She's a comedian, influencer out of Philly. She was on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast as a guest host last year for a couple of months, and really.
Why you being weird?
Hey, why you being weird to me? That's her. So yeah, she's finally doing her own podcast, and she's incredible. I think she's going to be a superstar. Then I got my guy Funny Marco. Probably a lot of you guys follow him already on Instagram with all the funny skits and pranks and things he's doing. But he's just a really, really funny dude, and we're building a podcast for him right now in Atlanta that's going to start coming out next month. And then I have some veteran voices as well. Kierna Mayo is hosting Coacharati. Kierna is one of the most well-respected Black female journalists in the hip hop space for the last 25 plus years. Started Honey Magazine, among other things. Was a lot of accolades. So she's brings a different point of view. So I'm trying to represent a wide range of perspectives. We're also really focused on narrative, kind of documentary style. We have two big stories that we're in the midst of working on. One is the story of the unsigned hype column, The Source. So that's the column where we discover Biggie, DMX, Eminem, Mobb Deep, Common, Capone, Noriega, Jay Electronica, legends, all before they were ever signed, and helped a lot of them get their first record deals. So we're telling the whole backstory of that column in an 8-part series that won't premiere until the first quarter next year. And then the other big one I'm here in Chicago working on is the Larry Hoover story. We have the exclusive
let the
rights.
GDs in the dough.
That's right. It's coming. I mean, his story is incredible. It's never been told, really in an accurate, fair way. He's always been painted by mostly, by the media and law enforcement in a very negative fashion. But a lot of folks know, the movement he was building in the 80s and the 90s with 21st Century Vote and redefining Gangsta Disciples as growth and development. And there's an amazing story of him as a political prisoner who really deserves to be free. And his story is still so relevant today with, the violence that we're seeing in Chicago, of course, other places as well. But,
Yeah.
there's a lot to be learned about the current situation when you understand the history of what was done, in this area. So really excited. That's a 10-part series that we're working on now that is going to be amazing.
I want to ask you, how can people, access these various programs and that you're going to be releasing? Obviously, there's a ton of different places where people can get, obviously, podcasts right now. Is it going to be a focus to get them to a home base for the website or to a direct area, or are you still going to spread it amongst various platforms?
Yeah, well, in this first phase, our website, which is breakbeatmedia.com, that'll be a hub where you can kind of get a sense of all the different programs that we have, and there'll be links to view or to listen to them. Some of the podcasts are audio, and some of them are audio and video. The video ones right now live on the Breakbeat YouTube channel. You can link to that from the website or search it up for Don't Call Me White Girl Show. Those are the first shows on our channel this week. And then the podcast will be available on every podcast app. So you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll find all of the Breakbeat podcasts there.
Let me ask you about the difference between ownership and partnership, okay? So how important is it to you to have ownership, especially when involved in the hip hop industry? And then how is it important for you to know when to do partnerships?
Well, ownership is extremely important, especially when it comes to hip hop, because, we need to be able to control, our messaging, control, the news and information to an extent that we're getting, and we need to have a platform that we can trust. And hip hop is such a powerful culture. It's a unifying culture, something that appeals to people of all races and walks of life and socioeconomic statuses. It's probably the most, powerful and unifying force that we've got to potentially help bring change. And that's always been, part of my vision and my DNA from creating The Source back in 1988 up until today is, hip hop. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's music, but it also is a culture that was created in a way to help empower disadvantaged communities and
A voice.
Black folks that have been historically discriminated against and continue to be, et cetera. So from that standpoint, ownership to me is critical because and that's something I took pride in at The Source. The Source I built up from a little newsletter into a huge company, but maintained full ownership and control over it. So we didn't have to answer to any big record companies or any other big corporations that say, oh, we don't want you saying this or printing this. So that's on the ownership side. I mean, partnerships can be great because you need to have a team to be able to execute at a high level. And generally, I mean, when you talk partnerships, if you're talking like strategic partnerships, you're not giving up ownership in those situations. There's, another basis of what the exchange is that's taking place between your company and your partner company, where both parties are maybe sharing in revenue or different things like that. So, a partnership doesn't mean somebody owning a percent of your company necessarily. It can, but
depending on the structure of the deal.
Yeah, strategic partnerships are very valuable, and you just have to pick the right partners as best you can, and try to make sure you get a fair contract going out. But it always comes down, in my experience, to relationships. You have to build strong relationships with your partners, so that they remain confident in you and you believe in them. And, and that's what will make a long-term strong partnership.
Yeah. Now Dave, you've been in the business and you've been in this culture for a long time, man, from various aspects. First, obviously being a fan, and then creating arguably the most important magazine in our culture's time. We're in a different era now. You know, this is a new world we're in with social media, with technology, and we've been in the pandemic. So I want to ask you, have you been tapped in and paying attention to Verzuz?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I've been checking Versus, and shout out to Swiss and Timbo for what they created. It's, obviously a major accomplishment for them and for hip hop as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. Has there been any battles that you've enjoyed personally, ones that kind of stuck out to you, or is there one that you've wanted to see that maybe hasn't come to fruition yet?
Um, Man, there've been so many. There were so many good ones, even from the early
Right,
days.
the pre-live ones when they was
Right,
before we was doing them in
right.
person.
Before it became the big productions. But of
Right.
course, Jeezy and Gucci Man was an incredible show.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who are the other ones that really stood out. I mean, I love the Isley Brothers. That's just because I'm a soul
But that's
music
where it
connoisseur.
come from, though. You know what I'm saying? How many
Yeah.
records have sampled, Master Ace, Biggie to Ice Cube? You know what I mean? So many great records have come from the Isley Brothers
Right, right.
catalog. And Earth, Wind, and Fire as well.
DMX, shout out, rest in peace to DMX. Shout out to Snoop, but rest in peace to X. Man, incredible loss. But glad to see that he had that chance to do Versus.
Right. And is there anyone that you want to see maybe go at it? I know it's been some conversations lately about Busta. Some people want to see Busta maybe getting it. Is there anybody you kind of want to think of maybe a dream matchup that we have yet to see?
I mean, again, I don't think this would be as appealing to everybody, but getting KRS One into a Versus with somebody,
maybe Rakim,
Big Daddy Kane, or Chuck D even. That's going way back. But Busta is an incredible entertainer.
right?
So any Versus with him will be incredibly, fun to watch. So I would look forward to that.
Do you think the one that they were floating around should happen? The latest one is the Puff and the JD one.
Puff and JD.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good matchup.
I do as well.
I know Puff. I think Puff. I know Puff's trying to hold out for Dr. Dre, but you got to give JD his props, man. I mean, he's been doing it a long time,
right,
and has done a lot of amazing things. So I think
they fit actually in a good pocket, because Bad Boy and So Def's era is around the same time. They both came from the producing and R&B acts and things like that, and then parlaying into hip hop. And I feel like they both ushered in the remix era. So sure. I feel like they actually would be a better matchup than people think. My stance on it is, when it comes to the solo aspect portion, Puff washes him. If we're talking about Puff's solo career as an artist, Puff, I think, is going to have a stronger suit on that side. If we're talking about the actual producing, writing, and arranging, that's hands down Jermaine.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that's what it was. It was going to be more of a producing Versus, but
they talking about pulling out the full clip. They saying, because JD was like, "Yo, I even bust your ass dancing," because they liked it both dance. Too, so.
That's true.
Yeah, so JD was dancing with Houdini back in the day. So, no, to me, what they should do, because it's 20 records. I feel like they should do 5 records that like they either wrote or produced, 5 of their solo records, and then 5 records from their label, because they known as label bosses.
Right.
I feel like that'd be a dope way to do theirs. Like, break that 20 up like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because JD don't got, JD is hella underrated, but like Puff playing big records is like cheat code. You know what I'm saying? and Brad is one of my favorite female MCs, but like you play a Biggie record, JD don't got nothing in that arsenal for that.
Yeah, that's tough right there.
But then JD can pull out that Usher and Mariah clip, so it could go either way. So, But I gotta talk some hip hop with you, man. Especially you being involved in the culture and you being familiar with some of these acts. So I just wanted to know, your take on Verzuz. Got Dave Mays, Inside the Morning Grind with Promise. We're talking about his brand new podcast network. You definitely need to check it out. And you've definitely done some dope things in our city here in Milwaukee. What's up with you following up with Hip Hop Week MKE? 2 years ago you helped do an amazing event here with Alderman Khalif Rainey. You brought an amazing award show to our city with legends like Scarface and Bun B and Mystical. You got any more plans to connect with Milwaukee and do more things in our hometown?
Yeah, I would love to come back. Shout out to Khalif Rainey, the creator of Hip Hop Week. And I know this year we talked and, it didn't feel like we were going to be able to pull it off with, everything going on.
Right.
So we got to sit back down and talk about doing it bigger next year. So hopefully we'll be back 2022 Hip Hop Week in Milwaukee and bring some of that excitement and energy. I had a great time in Milwaukee and was really happy we were able to do some, some stuff that was so impactful and enjoyable for folks. And, I got love for Milwaukee. So I want to come back and bring another bigger hip hop week next year.
Absolutely. We got the chip now, so you got to come back.
Yeah, that's right.
We got that chip.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Go Bucks.
And obviously the Source, the magazine was important to the culture. The award show was important. I recently heard that the new regime is going to be bringing the Source Awards back for 2022, the first time in 17 years. I just want to know, what's your thoughts, man, about, them trying to resurrect something that you helped create?
I mean, I wish them the best. I think there's definitely a need for hip hop awards. In addition to the one, really the only one we have is the BET Hip Hop Award.
Yeah.
But I think there's room to do a hip hop awards in a way that's more consistent with how I did the Source Awards in the past. A show that's a little more diversified, that represents the breadth of the culture, not just the music, but all other areas that the culture is impacting and all the people it's impacting. Still, obviously, an iconic brand, and good luck to them with getting a Source Awards award show. So I will say that, I took my bumps and bruises over the years learning how to do it, but I got 7 big Source Awards under my belt, so I'm ready.
And let me say this too, Dave. I know we live in this era where it's becoming cliche with the whole give people their flowers, but let me really thank you for your contribution to hip hop, man. I don't know how often you get acknowledged or how often you get credit, but I mean, that's a part of my childhood. You know what I'm saying? That magazine is a part of a lot of, us growing up, reading that magazine. To me, it's as important as your MTV Raps. You know what I'm saying? How that helped shift the culture and what Rap City was able to do and those other platforms. What you were able to do with that magazine and that award show, it gave faces to artists. Right? We got to see what some of our favorite artists look like. We got to get in-depth information before the internet was what it is now. We used to have to wait, to read in the source to find out. I remember looking at the album covers, flipping through to see whose project was coming out next, or, what this artist was talking about for this exclusive interview. Like, I remember as a little kid when Dre left Death Row, my cousin had that Source magazine, on his wall with Dr. Dre leaving Death Row. So, those are moments that, like, I cherish as a kid. Like, I still got copies of my old Source magazines, like my OG ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a part of growing up where I couldn't wait to go to the store to spend my $4 or $5, you know what I'm saying, to buy that magazine, to rip posters out, to put them on the wall, to read the reviews, to see who got a 4.5, who got a 5, Mike the Unsigned Hype, quotable lyrics and things like that. So I want to thank you, man, for creating something that helped, shape my young life and my love for hip hop and just embracing and adding to the culture, man. I want to thank you for your contribution and for creating that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was always like a really kind of behind the scenes type of guy. That was just my style. I didn't want the attention. I didn't want to put my name and face out front to get all the credit. I was just about getting it done and focused on building this company. So, in some ways, a lot of people don't really know my story and my contributions. And, so this time around with Breakbeat, that's going to change. I'm going to be a lot more
hands-on,
but not even just hands-on, but more vocal.
visible.
So, yeah, I mean, one of the podcasts that I'm launching next month that I didn't mention yet is the Dave Mays Show.
Okay.
So I'll be hosting my own podcast every week on the network, which will give me an opportunity to share my perspectives and ideas about a lot of different subject matters. Of course, hip hop and the history of hip hop will be part of it, but I think I have a unique perspective on things, just everything I've been through over the years. And, I'm excited for people to get to know me better through my podcasts and other things and get to, get a better understanding.
I see you have I can't help but notice you got a drawing of Pac in the back. Let me ask you, man, this year was the 25th anniversary of, unfortunately, his untimely passing, which is just crazy to think that he's been going that long. His impact is still, what it is. Arguably the most influential rapper of all time. Do you have a Pac memory or a Pac story that maybe you could share with us?
I mean, I didn't get to spend a lot of time getting to know Pac. I really just met him once. He was at the '94 Source Awards, which was the first real award show with an audience that we did. It wasn't televised, but I'm sure you guys have probably seen some of the footage out there.
Is that the one with him and Tribe Quest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And he performed Out on Bail was the name of the song with him and Thug Life. And, they ran out while Tribe was accepting an award. So some controversy around that, but he supported the Source. He was a fan of the Source. We supported him. And, so, that night got a little bit crazy, but, nothing ended up getting out of hand. I'm just glad to have him as part of the history of the Source Awards. For sure. He's definitely, as you say, the most influential artist in the history of hip hop, I would say.
What was that like? You know what I'm saying? Just getting a chance to meet him, especially at that point of his career.
Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of energy, and he was just, he was a cool, down to earth guy, as, I think most people can tell from, what we've all seen from him. So it wasn't we didn't have a long conversation that night. But, I'm still glad, again, to say that I had the chance to meet him, and, a great man.
Absolutely. Too many different moments and memories from it. But whether it be maybe a favorite cover, or maybe it could be, a favorite interview or moment, is there something that is maybe one of your top memories of your time at the Source? Or
like you said, there's a lot of memories and a lot of interesting and incredible things that I was a part of over the years. So you mentioned favorite covers. I have a couple of them sitting up here, so I figured I would hold them up. This was Mary J. Blige, January 1995, in the ice sculpture, styled by Misa Hilton, who was one of Diddy's first baby's mother.
It's Justin's mom, right?
Mom, yeah, she was a stylist for that. And this really was one of my favorite covers of all time. The first Dr. Dre cover, right before the Chronic came out.
Wow.
I was so happy to be able to get him to agree to give us that exclusive cover before they dropped the Chronic. because I knew, how incredible that album was, and the impact it was going to have. Probably, arguably the most influential hip hop album in history, The Chronic.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of my favorite covers for sure.
No, that's dope. That's dope. Now, Dave, whenever I sit down with any of my guests, I always play a game of first and last. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you a first and I'm gonna ask you a last. Sometimes they connected, sometimes they not. You ready?
I hope so.
All right, we
Not
got
too.
first. It ain't gonna be too crazy. We got first
Okay.
and last with Dave Mays. Dave, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Use the bathroom.
Okay. I can respect that. I get a lot of different answers.
That's usually what wakes me up.
Let me ask you this. When is the last time you spoke to Benzino?
I haven't spoken to him in a while. It's been about 5 years.
Okay. Did you see like that his daughter was going to do music, from you being around him all those years? Could you see Coi Leray would do that? Or did that kind of surprise you that his daughter got into the game?
No, I mean, she's been making music since she was a lot younger. He got all his kids really, into music at a young age, and they all were talented. Coi was always talented. I didn't know what she was doing these last few years until I started hearing about it. And obviously she's having a huge impact. But yeah, Coy's always been a really talented young lady from an early age.
When is the first time that you actually made money in hip hop? Like, when was the first time you actually realized, like, yo, I made some money doing this?
It was, with the source, as it took a couple years to really start to make a little profit and pay myself something, because I was in college when I started it. But I had been promoting some rap concerts. Those didn't go too well as far as making money. Tough business. And then, but I started the source while I was in college. And, after the first couple of years, it was doing well. I was being sold in 1,000, mom and pop record stores around the country. I built up a huge network of stores that were selling it all over the country in every city. We were getting a lot of advertising revenue from the record companies because, they loved the magazine because it gave a way to, reach the hip hop audience and promote their artists in a way that didn't exist. There was no media coverage of hip hop back in the mid to late 1980s at all. We were really the first to provide that. So, I would say first money was with the early Source magazine.
Okay. And what is the last album you purchased?
A physical purchase, not a digital.
Yeah, like the last album you bought.
Well, actually, there's an easy answer because I bought it recently. Was Biggie's greatest hits vinyl, because I bought a turntable for the house here.
Let me find out Dave got some. Everybody got some skills, or just for the listening pleasure.
Yeah, just for just part of the the ambiance and listening, and the nostalgia. I just have one turntable. I can't really spin like that.
Yeah. What's crazy, because you being around the culture for so long, people will wonder like if you got a hidden notebook somewhere with the rhymes or somewhere unreleased beats by you.
Never. That's one thing about me, and a lot of people, that end up in media in hip hop, you find out were, artists or producers or whatever. But no, I've never had that urge to rap or produce. I've always just respected those that do it at a high level, and, left them in their lane and let me stay in my lane.
I can respect that. this is amazing what you're doing, man. I salute you. I look forward to seeing the growth of this podcast network, man. Give out the website for Breakbeat one more time so people can connect with it.
Yeah, breakbeatmedia.com, and on social, it's Breakbeat Media on IG, Twitter, Facebook. And I'm at the Real Dave Mays on IG if you guys want to follow me as well.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, I appreciate your time, man, coming to do the show.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Promise. Appreciate you having me on.